listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And I got to tell you something, people. A few weeks ago on my show, me and my guest, Robert Tepper, were talking about a T-shirt I got in college from friends of mine from North Jersey, and it was for a place in Hoboken called the Clam Broth House. Now, it's funny I bring that up because I know that's my guest's old stomping ground, and I believe he was born and lived in Hoboken for a while, and my guest is probably one of the best actors out there. My guest is the one, the only, Joey Pants. How you doing, Joey?
How are you, Cooper?
Good. Now, do you know the Clam Broth House in Hoboken?
Of course. Yeah, I was born and raised there. I guess literally, technically, I was born in Jersey City, Margaret Haig Hospital. But I was raised there, and I lived there until I was I think 16, and then I went to high school in Cliffside Park for 3 years. And I still have an apartment in Hoboken.
See, that's awesome. I can imagine. I mean, how much has it changed since you were there when you were a kid? Oh
my God, it's become, if my relatives, if we had just stayed there, everybody would be rich. A brownstone was, $18,000, and the opportunities that have brought as Manhattan grew, so did Hoboken, and it's just a thriving community, and it was very dangerous and scary growing up there, and I lived in the projects for a time, and now it's a metropolis, and everything that was where the factories were, apartments, and the trains that would take all of the dry goods out, and the cars, from the factories, those are all fast rails accommodating commuters to and from all parts of the western side of Jersey that comes up to the river.
Now, you grew up there, and what got you into acting? What did you know you wanted to go acting? When that was going to be your career choice?
Well, we were broke, and I wanted to get out. I wanted to, I kind of bought into the idea that if you worked hard in America, you had a chance, and so there were, being that I wasn't a well-educated young man, the only options in a lot of ways haven't changed. They were the same in the 30s as they are today, and that's sports, or entertainment, or organized crime, criminal aspects. So in today's world, I guess you either get into sports or entertainment, or you become a banker.
Right. So what?
So I wanted to also the idea of having this cognitive understanding as a young guy that I was going to cease to exist, that I was going to die. That as a species, we humans are the only ones that have a cognitive understanding at some point in our lives, around 6, 7, or 8, that we will cease to exist. And the idea that I was going to die at some point and there would be no evidence of my existence, what intrigued me watching the $1 Million Movie in black and white, all those old movies, was that I was watching actors that I knew were dead, gone, but there they were still alive, they still existed, and that really appealed to me.
So what path do you take? As you said, you were broke, you wanted to get out, but what path did you take to sit there and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to kick ass?
Well, I don't think I said, I was intrigued by it, it was the only path. It wasn't a path that I took, it was the only path I could take. I had no options, and I recall giving myself 10 years, that if I wasn't making a living at it in 10 years, that, I'd have to do something else. And, in the course of my life, I did do a lot of things. I've been in the restaurant business, and as a young actor training in New York, restaurant business was a very viable opportunity for a guy like me, because you could go on auditions and still work, or you can do these little plays downtown and still cover some of your shifts, so you still had some money coming in, even though they weren't paying you.
Now, you said you did some plays downtown. I want to talk about your latest play. You're in Drift. I know Bobby Maresca was on my show a few weeks ago, and he had talked about it. What attracted you to Drift, and how did you get involved with it?
Well, you know, Bobby's an old friend of mine. We did our first movie. I think we got our Screen Actors Guild card on a Bruce Postman movie, I think in 1972, which was an extension of his NYU graduate program. I think it was a feature length. And so we were working on that. That's how we got to know each other. In fact, Bobby saved my life when an actor during rehearsal at the director's apartment on Lafayette on the fourth floor walk-up decided that he wanted to throw me out of a window. And Bobby came out of the bathroom and realized that this wasn't acting. And he grabbed the guy by the neck and pulled him and me out from danger. And so I've worked with Bobby, and I've known him over 40 years. I think we've known each other 45 years. And I did Easy Streets with him, and he sent me this play, and I really wanted to work with Bobby. At my age, I'm really fascinated with the idea of working, always trying to surround myself with younger people, and a playwright that Bobby was really excited about, and it beats laying on the couch watching Turner Classic Movies.
Right. Now, tell me about the play Drift.
Well, I don't want to give anything away, but it's a story that begins 10 years after a young man comes home from serving a time in prison on the birth date of his father's death / suicide. And so he's coming back into this world of construction. I play a guy named Tom McMahon who came up with his dad before this darkness set into his dad. A series of events that started crippling him emotionally and challenging him. The play takes place in 1957. So I feel like that this is the only family I ever had. And also, the boy's mother had died, and several weeks earlier, and I was trying to get him, or the state to let him come out and see his mother and be a part of her send off, and they wouldn't do that. So it's a series of events that kind of accumulate, and all of these secrets come out, and there's an overwhelming darkness and humor to it that comes to a boil in the end.
Now, how many shows will you be doing a week?
It's an off-Broadway run, so we'll be doing 8 shows a week.
Now, how is that for you with your acting chops? You're such a good actor. You've been in so many movies. But when you get to the stage and have to do 8 shows a week, it must be so draining and just take the energy out of you. How do you get prepared for that?
Well, I did a play downtown a couple of years ago, and it was a shorter play, and it was only 3 characters. I did a play on Broadway a while back, and it was only 2 characters, and that was, there was just I had no life. None of us did. You just went, you worked. It's like, it's so concentrated. Now, this play has got 6 scenes, so I'm in 3 first through, and they're very, what's the word? Very physical, but I have resting periods. I'm like in the second scene, and then I got 2 scenes where I can rest. and then I got another scene, and then I got scene. I don't know yet because we're still rehearsing, but it's certainly something I've thought about, and it's keeping me young. It's keeping me excited, and I'm filled with fear and anxiety and excitement all at the same time.
Now, did you get your start in theater?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, in New York, when I was a kid, I was going to school here and doing all of these little plays, and then becoming getting an equity job, which is the theatrical union for actors, and traveling around and doing summer stock and regional theater was always fun, because when you do a play, every night it's different. We stand in the same place and the lighting is the same, but the audience is different, and that always affects the outcome of the play. It's like trying to hold mercury in your hand. It's always moving, and I'm not a big golfer, but it's kind of like, that perfect swing. When you hit that ball, it's like that sweet spot, and chasing the kind of performance where you can have a good first act and a good second act, and everybody's good at the same time is very material.
So you're kicking around now. Now, the first time I remember seeing you was the movie that came out in 1980, which I love, which a ton of people don't know, but I remember seeing you in the Idolmaker. How did you land that part? I mean, that seems like it was your first big movie.
Yeah, what year was that? Did you say 1980?
That's what it says, yeah, for the Idolmaker.
Yeah, so in 1979, I got hired for the first really important job. Was the remake of From Here to Eternity. It was a 6-hour miniseries, and that was over at Columbia TV, and that's when Warner Brothers was still Burbank Studios, and they had Columbia there, and they had Warner's there, and all of these different companies were there, and I did that. And then I got Rob Reiner hired me to be in a sitcom after he got off of All in the Family, and then he did a MOW with Penny Marshall, and that led to working with Rita Riggs, and Rita was the wardrobe designer, costume designer, and then Taylor Hackford was a friend of hers, and he was a documentary filmmaker who was doing this film called The Idolmaker, and so she introduced me to Taylor, and that's how I got that. And it's these little opportunities. People talk about or ask me about big breaks, and it was never a big break. It was just all these little breaks, these little opportunities that added up to a 40-year career.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like some of the movies. I mean, you were in Eddie and the Cruisers, which for me, growing up as a kid in South Jersey, the opening scene of that bar is a place called Tony Mart. And I remember trying to sneak in there when I was 16. So a lot of kids from my area just loved that movie. What was it like on the set for that? Because you guys seem to be all pretty young and a group of guys, and there's probably, some egos and some conflicts going on. I mean, what was it like?
I don't remember a lot of conflicts. I just remember how hard all the actors worked. Southside Johnny was the technical advisor. I think Kenny Vance was there. So all these wonderful musicians, and then they found. I think Kenny discovered Beaver Brown up in Rhode Island, and they got the sax player Tunes to come down and actually play the character of the sax player, and going around. We shot a lot of that on the border of Philadelphia, in Cherry Hill, and then we went down to South Jersey, Tony Mart's, what's the name of Ocean City around there. So I just remember just everybody working hard and having a lot of fun in between.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Cherry Hill because that's where I grew up, and I never knew it shot in Cherry Hill. I knew the Tony Mart thing, but now I live right next door to Cheerio, although I moved back from L.A.
Well, there used to be a racetrack across, and there was a hotel called the Rickshaw Inn.
Yeah.
And everybody got the crabs because it was frequented by women of the bridge, shall I say. The Walt Whitman Bridge. Poor Walt Whitman. He only knew.
and I know exactly. It's called Admiral Wilson Boulevard. And there used to be a place called the Latin Casino, which was right near the Rickshaw Inn.
Yeah, there was a big hotel for that area, and that racetrack had burned down by then, right? It was still there, but it had burned down.
Yeah, it burned down. Then they rebuilt it, and they got rid of it. So, okay, so that movie's great. And you've been in so many movies I love. You were in Risky Business. Did you know that Tom Cruise would become this huge star off that performance? And how did people react to you? Because you're Guido, and it's a great role.
Oh, gosh, I don't remember. I mean, it's like 4 years ago. I remember liking Tom Cruise. I remember, again, it's like the one thing that these guys, these movie stars, they wanted to be. I mean, I could tell you, like, Tom Cruise, people that have worked with Tom Cruise, Ben Stiller, Will Smith, they had a plan, and the bar was extraordinarily high, and they lacked doubt. They knew what they wanted. They knew we were going there, and they did everything they had to do. To become a movie star in today's world, or even 30 years ago, it's like being an athlete. Humphrey Bogart, he could smoke cigarettes and get drunk every night. Never did a push-up in his life. But now these guys are all superheroes.
Now, you've worked with so many great directors. Who are some of the favorite you've worked with?
Oh gosh, I've been really blessed. I've really been blessed. By the way, these young guys, Adil and Lyle, Bad Boys for Life, they're terrific, and their DP, Frederick, they're amazing. And the idea. Jerry Bruckheimer is kind of like a genius. I mean, he's the best creative producer I ever worked with, and his eye for taste is bounding. But in terms of people I work for and producing teams, it's a team. Directors, they get beat up, but when their movies stink, and then they get all the credit when their movies are good. And anybody that is in the business understands that it's really it's like you got your general and you got your unit, and it's a collaborative effort. And I learned that from Steven Spielberg and Richard Donner, the Wachowskis, and Chris Nolan, and I've been blessed with first time working. Michael Bay, these guys, except for Spielberg, Taylor Hackford, everybody I mentioned, Andy Davis, that I had the good fortune of working with these guys at the beginning. All of them have given me other jobs, and I've always learned so much from just all of those storytellers. They just want to tell a great story. They want to tell the story that's in their head.
Now, of your characters, they're all great characters. What was your favorite character to play?
I get this question a lot, and I have to admit, it's important to be honest, that getting a job, creating a character, is like a love affair with a beautiful woman. You see her, you want her, and by the time it's over, you can't stand the sight of her. and that's what that's what I feel about the characters that I played. And some of them I loathe less than others.
What were your feelings towards Ralph on The Sopranos?
Well, it's a great, fun character to play, but I just, people, our society sees things black and white, cowboy white hat or cowboy black hat. And, Ralph was a very sick, complicated individual. And David Chase gave me that great send-off where you saw the complexities of that man and some of the things, it's all connected. It's not just a guy that likes getting a dildo up his behind. These guys are damaged. Ralph was extremely damaged and hurt people. But because of streaming now, these kinds of characters are always around, and people see them as if they've just been created, and people are always asking me about, either it's Ralph or The Matrix, or these things have left my brain bank a long time ago, and I don't remember them as well as fans do.
Now, as I was doing my research on you, I know you've talked a lot about your depression. Does depression add to when you're getting ready for a character for something, or does it deter?
Well, I think that's another reason that I didn't know even when I wanted to become an actor, because it was a carrot. If I could become successful, maybe this feeling unconsciously, maybe this feeling would go away. And I think I've studied it. I've been in treatment for a long time. I made a movie about it, and the professionals that I interviewed said that creative art, it's almost like it's the yang to the yin. If you're a creative person, these elements are part of your motivating factor, and it's part of the toolbox. So you sublimate all of that unresolved pain. Depression is a result of adolescent traumas that were never resolved, that were never realized and never treated. So in my training, I came to understand that these were parts of my life that I learned to utilize through my work.
Now, how did you recognize that you were depressed, and what made you first go to get help for it?
Well, I became addicted to Vicodin and an alcoholic. And, the Vicodin was like this, this heroin was like the idea that it put a bounce in my step, that it was like this little feeling that I've been chasing my whole life. This is this is the way I want to feel. And so I went to a doctor for physical, because I have a history of heart disease, and so I take Lipitor. And he asked how I was doing, and I said, I just feel like I'm underwater all the time. I feel numb. And he said, well, maybe you should see a psychiatrist, and that began this journey that led me to understand that I had this dis-ease that was living inside of me, and that all of these other elements were the byproduct of trying to treat the disease. So in a negative form, I was treating my dis-ease with alcohol or with sex or with drugs, or so now I treat it with kindness and with work and with discussion and everybody's got it. It's just a matter of when it comes and how to regulate and manage it. I treat it with walking. I treat it with exercise. And the biggest solution is anti-isolation, because it wants you to isolate. It wants you to stay in bed. It wants you to be crippled by it. And so you just have to do the other thing. And they say a 15-minute brisk walk, science has proven that a 15-minute brisk walk is the equivalent of 20 milligrams of Prozac.
Now, do you feel it when it's coming on? I mean, you seem to know what to do now, but do you say, oh...
Absolutely, and it's always there. It's here every moment, and every waking moment in my life. It lives inside my chest.
Now, do you ever use that to your advantage for your character? Let's say in Drift, do you sit there? I mean, how do you get ready to perform if you are feeling a little depressed?
Well, let me just say that this play is the appropriate play for my state of mind. I don't have to work on that part. It's perfect.
Well, I want to thank you, Joe, for taking the time. The play starts February 27th. It's at the New World Stages, and you got to be looking forward to it. Are you expecting a long run, or do you know how long it's going to last?
We're expecting a long run, and I think it's 13 weeks. But everybody comes down and come to the previews, because we'd love to see you and say hello after. And fans, fans of mine. By the time you leave, you're going to have a whole new group of fans to these new, young, brilliant actors I'm working with.
Okay, before we go, I have one quick question. Who is your most recognized character? Like, who do people recognize you as the most?
It depends. If I'm in New Jersey, of course, it's Ralphie. But if I'm walking through a college town, it's Memento. It's Bound. In the LGBTQ community, African Americans, the Bad Boys Matrix. It just depends on the connoisseur that approaches me.
Okay, well, I want to thank you. People, go check out Joey's work. Go look him up on IMDb. Watch his old performances. Go see the play. I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only
go see the play and go see Bad Boys for Life.
I know. Well, Bad Boys. No, that's doing well. It must have been great to bring that character back.
It's doing well. It's doing phenomenal. It's the #1 movie in the world for the 3rd week in a row.
Now that has to get you happy. You can't be depressed about that, right?
Nope, not at all. I mean, I'm just grateful and the gratitude that, because it's so good. You make 2 of them, and this one is the best one yet. And I just really proud to be a part of it.
Now, what's coming up after the play? Do you have anything on docket for movies?
I got a movie that I did in Italy called From the Vine, that's been getting a lot of play in the film festivals, and it's going to come out in May. I did a movie last year that's coming out called Hide and Seek by a Korean company, and I think I got another one. I don't have that in front of me, but IMDb would know better than I. But I think I got 3 movies coming out.
Well, that's awesome, man. And I look for From the Wine. You play a vineyard owner, right?
Yeah, well, a guy who just kind of leaves the corporate world behind and goes home after 50 years, and is having visions and conversations with his dead grandfather, and he decides to start making wine again in a community where all the young people have left, and it's just old people left, and and so it becomes a lifeline for these oldsters like myself who get an opportunity to have something to live for again. It's a beautiful, uplifting, fun comedy.
Well, that's awesome, Joey. Another thing I want to know, though, how many hats do you have? I'm a big hat wearer, and I always see you in interviews with hats. You must have over 50 hats.
No, that's nothing. That's, I bet you I've got over 300 hats.
Holy shit.
And funny, I was at Barney's today. That they're going out of business, and there was a beautiful hat that was just a little bit tight on me, and it was like the $600 Humberg. That was just one size too small on me, and it was like $120. It was 80% off, and the salesperson wouldn't sell it to me. She said it was too small. You needed to put a finger in it, And I was like, I can't believe it. This place, you're going out of business, and you got everything must go, and you're saying no, I can't have it.
All right, well, Joe, I want to thank you. People, check out Joe, check out Bad Boys, check out his play. Go to my website, coopertalk.net. I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you guys next time.